Good morning, guys. So, agriculture, economic survey, right? Part two. Part one, we dealt with mainly the basics, macro fundamentals, what is happening with respect to external sector, what is happening with respect to our monetary policy as such. It was more conceptual. From here, it is more, you can say, fact-based, program-based. See, now, generally what happens is when you're studying for prelims, you tend to study these government policies, in isolation. Some documents come out, all the government schemes, 100 schemes, 120 schemes come, and you start reading, and it becomes mindless reading. Rather than that, start integrating with the concept. For example, agriculture comes. What are all the agricultural schemes that are there? Start associating with that. Now start dividing agriculture with respect to inputs. What are the issues with respect to farmers? What are the issues? What are the schemes that has come? With respect to marketing, agricultural infrastructure, what are the schemes that have come? Once you start reading in that manner, you tend to remember the schemes much longer. If you go on reading for that 120 schemes, taking that bulk document and trying to study, it will be very difficult for you to remember, and you also will miss what is important. See, generally what happens is when UPSC is asking questions in prelims, especially scheme related questions, what they tend to do is they tend to ask which are the most recent events, which schemes are doing well, which schemes are having an impact. For example, I'll tell you, I think last year or before year, all of a sudden there was a question on INVITs and REITs, infrastructure investment trusts and real estate investment trusts. Not really. Okay. There was a prelims question which came. The scheme started in 2018 or 19. 17 or 18, they had started INVITs and REITs. But question came in 24 or 25. I don't remember 24 or 25. There was a question in 24 or 25. Why all of a sudden the question came in 24 or 25 means because they started performing. The scheme started bringing in a lot of capital, right? That is why government started, pushing those schemes more, and as a result, the question came up in your prelims. Prelims, see, though there is static knowledge, it is prelims questions are more contextual. Understand that part. Prelims questions are mostly contextual. Means what is happening in this year, last year, the underlying themes, what is in importance, they tend to ask questions, which was asked, came up because there was a discussion regarding inflation index bonds. All these things which comes in prelims, all of us, it doesn't come all of a sudden, it has been there in the discussion. That is where your current affairs knowledge synchronizes with your static preparation. Right? Anyway, over here, what we'll look at is we'll see economic survey, what it has told. With respect to today, I'll deal with the sectors, most important four sectors: agriculture, infrastructure, industry, services. Right? We'll try to get an understanding of what is running in this, especially agriculture related. As you know, in agriculture, there are a lot of questions that come up. So, what was the main theme that was coming up in agriculture? See, this year's economic survey is actually a very, very important economic survey, I feel, compared to the last few years. Because this year's economic survey tries to show that there is a marked shift in the Indian approach. When I say marked shift, see, previously we were trying to tackle problems on a case by case basis. We were not looking at the complete picture. We were trying to tackle problems by a case basis. And last 3-4 years, what used to happen is, I would say there have been a lot of schemes which have come up in the last 3, 4, or 5 years, which has changed the idea from going by a case basis to, you can say, a more holistic, integrated, a future driven approach. It is not that, for example, it is not that I build a road in one area doesn't have road, I'll just build a road. It is no longer in that idea. Now, if I'm going to build a road, what kind of road should come? What kind of industries should come over there? What kind of crops are grown over there? What kind of skilled workforce is there? What can I do to improve the complete region? Not just building a road. For example, all these major areas you would have seen. Build a road, it will transform. But just building a road is not the objective of the government. Today, they're going for a more integrated approach. They're calling it as a systems approach, right? From project objective basis to a systems approach, systems integrated approach, where cross coordination across all the ministries try moving towards one objective. Right? Road would be built by road ministry, and you would find that, for example, related to, let's say, food parks or something, again it goes to agricultural ministry. All it was disorganized. Now it's coming as a one single entity. Especially infrastructure, I'll come there. You'll find that in infrastructure, you are having all this important corridors coming up, even high growth corridors, high speed corridors. It has been announced this year also, it has been announced last year also. When they're speaking of corridors, they're also speaking of industrial clusters. Which kind of industries are more suitable over there, right? So these are the underlying shifts that's very much visible. That's why this year's economic survey was more comprehensive, because there's a change in the way the government is looking at things. Earlier economic surveys used to speak about what was happening, and they used to give again, they used to give an idea, okay, what should be the future. But from here, what we observe is there is a marked shift. It's no longer just, you can say, doing one thing. It's more integrating ourselves well in every part of the economy. Agriculture is very much integrated to manufacturing. Manufacturing is very much integrated to services. And today, especially, you find that, for example, you take your car. Right. Earlier, automobile manufacturing, if you used to go, car, what they used to see, mainly car, they used to see, okay, seats are comfortable, what gears are there, what power is there. This was all only to deal with manufacturing. But today's cars, when you go, you want infotainment, you want touch screens, you want GPS. These are all services. Now, services is getting integrated. Services is getting integrated with the hardware. Right? So you see that every sector is becoming interdependent. And the growth is possible only with interdependency. That earlier we used to view everything in silos, agriculture separately, manufacturing separately, services separately. But today we have to view all of them in continuum. All of them are getting interdependent. Even when you come to your services, for example, you get into your AI, what is happening? Now, AI, again, it's mostly on embedded systems. All these GPUs, graphical processing units. It's an integration of both hardware and software. It's not just software anymore. It's both integrated hardware and software, customized. GPUs is what you call them, graphical processing units. You know about that? GPUs? No. Anyway, science and tech, when it comes, you can learn about that. These are important things. These are the things they'll ask in the prelims. What is a GPU? GPUs can run from which speed to which speed? How is it different from regular CPUs? You have heard about NVIDIA? NVIDIA. NVIDIA. It is the most valued company in the world today. It is not Microsoft. It is not Tesla. NVIDIA is the most valuable company in the world because for 20 years, they didn't break profit. But once this AI boom started, they were the ones who were manufacturing the semiconductor chips for that. And NVIDIA is always in news. Jensen Huang, would have seen him at least, NVIDIA CEO. He came to India also. You guys have to update yourself. You have to start seeing what is happening around you. Anyway, coming back to agriculture. So in agriculture, what we observe is last 3-4 years, our productivity has increased. Income is increasing of the farmers, but yields. See, productivity more, it has increased in terms of volumes, but yields per hectare is still an issue. Right? This is one of the major underlying themes in this survey. And what can we do to improve the yield? Right? Anyway, past focus was mainly on basic food security. Right? We were more focused on ensuring that we had food crops for our National Food Security Act, for our food security, whereby we had rice, wheat, right? Today, you find there is a marked shift. Government is more even focusing on nutrition. If you observe, government is even focusing on nutrition. You are having see, for example, earlier you had National Food Security Mission. Do you guys remember that? There is a National Food Security Mission. What does it do? It encourages the production of cereals, pulses, right? And coarse cereals, all this to reach particular amounts. 300 ton, 300 million ton, some in that manner. It is trying to improve the production of these particular, you can say, crops. Now they are moving towards, now they have changed the name, National Food Security and Nutrition Mission. So what is happening is now they're even looking at nutrition, whereby they're trying to see which crops are required more. Now they're thinking about the people's dietary habits, basket of crops, which are to be included so that protein intake is increasing, right? So there's a shift that is going on. And now our focus is on income security and resilience. Resilience in terms of, though there is, let's say, La Nina comes, for example, El Nino. What we have observed is whenever El Nino comes in India, out of the 15 times El Nino came, 10 times in the last 15 times, 10 times pulses production fell drastically to the extent of 30%. Suddenly, if El Nino comes, pulses has an abrupt fall, right? So how do you weather these things? How do you manage these things? So that is where they are speaking about agricultural resilience. So that even in an untoward event occurs, we should be able to balance it, right? Anyway, let us start with this. That is why, they have given food security to income security through resilience and diversification. Now, today you find that it contributes approximately 20% to national income. Agriculture is contributing to 20%, and as you know, 46.1%, 45% on an average bit of the agricultural workforce is there. And you find that it is growing by 4.45%, which is a good number. Generally, we find that agriculture always used to stagnate around 2% to 3%. Right? Agriculture was generally around 2%, sometimes even as bad as 1%, 1.2, 1.4 also it has grown, which is very, very marginal. Today, you find that it has reached 4.45%, highest decadal growth which has been recorded, right? And one of the major factors why agriculture is growing is not only, you can say, agricultural crops, even allied activities, they have seen a boom. In the last 10 years, allied activities in terms of fisheries, horticulture, all these, whichever other activities are there, they have seen a huge boom to the tune of more than 150%. Right? And fisheries, all these sectors are getting a lot of investments, and a lot of fisheries have come up in India. Right? And that is why, as I said, now our priority is moving from volume driven input use to efficiency driven growth. As I told you, focus is on yields, water use efficiency, and soil health. We were mainly going with volumes. See, I'll tell you, for example, there is one chart over here. See this chart, right? So this is the global average, and this is what our Indian average is. You can find that global average around 6,000 kgs of total cereals is produced per hectare in India. Just because we are having more land, we are able to compete in volumes. It's not that per hectare we are improving. Right? You can see there are huge gaps. Even in terms of rice, you see 3,000 is India's, 5,500 is the global average. 3,000, 1,500. We are not very near, except for groundnut, somewhere we are near, only a gap of 1,000. Rest of the other things, you find that we are very, very far away. That is why I'm saying we have to move from an era of volume driven to efficiency driven, right? Further, as I told you, agriculture and allied sector. So you can see how the growth has been in the agricultural sector. 6.6%, 2.1, 6.24, 4.6, 6.3, 2.7, 4.6. When you average it out, somewhere around 4.4%. right? Agricultural growth has always been up and down, up and down. You will never find agriculture to be growing constantly and consistently, right? And as I said, allied sectors are now acting as your critical buffer. They're acting as a buffer. So what is happening is whenever even agriculture is trying to, agricultural output is going down, farmers are relying today on allied activities, dairy, fisheries, right? Horticulture, these are supporting them. Today, there is a robust support mechanism for them. And real acceleration came from livestock, as I told you, and fishing. Fishing is the largest driver in allied activities. Today, fishing is the largest driver. Remember that. Fishing is booming today because that's a potential question. What UPSC might do is, see, behind this data, what kind of question UPSC might ask? In a very commonsensical manner, they might ask. In the allied sectors, we find that the growth is more robust or the contribution by these sectors are more contribution by which of these sectors are high. They might give and they might give order 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 2, 1, something like that. That is where you might start doubting, okay, fisheries. If you have not read the economic survey, most of them do not actually think much about fisheries. Right? What is happening with respect to fisheries, they do not think, but fisheries has become a huge sector today. Right? See, as I told you, 140% growth in fisheries production. Right? There's a huge growth. And in the livestock sector also, you find that 195% over the previous years. There is a huge growth from 15 to 24. Right? And seafood is being exported, processed food exports close to 20%. All these are just, and see, these are all the, we speak about doubling farmers' income. The idea was to double farmers' income by 2022. That is what the plan of the government, first NDA one was. But 2022, no farmers' income doubled because in India, you find that there are structural issues. There are a lot of structural issues. Unless and until you address these structural issues, you are not going to be able to solve this problem. Why there is so much of up and down oscillation in the agricultural sector is because structural issues persist. Today, all of a sudden, if El Nino comes, again, you'll find that the output will fall. We have still not created you can say, our water buffers. Right? If there is one El Nino, we do not know what to do. Again, water is not available. All the issues come up. Now, further, another important observation that has happened is horticulture. Right? Horticulture has overtaken food grains. Major shift in production. Food grains means your rice, wheat, all that included. Right? It's only 329.68 million ton, and this has gone to 362. Fruits and vegetables. This is a major shift that has happened. Today, horticulture has more produce than, right? And you find that India has become the second largest producer. Now, again, I know these things you have to keep noting where India is the first largest, second largest. You have to be careful. India is the second largest producer of vegetables and fruits globally. You can even add potatoes over here. Right? India has also become the second largest producer of potatoes. Then India is the first in dry onions. Right? 25% of the global output is coming from India, dry onions. And broad-based expansion. So these are the fruits, these are the vegetables, when you see how much. Right? So remember, horticulture is producing more than food grains, the total weightage of horticulture. And this, as I was discussing with you, per hectare benchmarks. And there is also regional disparity also. See, this you're comparing with food grains. But when you go from state to state, when you find that in Punjab, Haryana, in Western Uttar Pradesh, there is more yield per hectare compared to other areas. Because availability of inputs, availability of water, procurement, green revolution occurred over there in those regions. So there is still a huge difference in the yields. The yields of, let's say, rice or wheat, or you take rice. Rice is something that's grown across India. The yields of rice in Uttar Pradesh is very different to West Bengal, is very different to Karnataka, is very different to Tamil Nadu. There are huge disparities within India also because nothing has been stabilized. And one of the major reasons for this is agriculture is a state subject, right? So it is dependent on every state to take up a large transformation. And we find that states are not able to cater to that. And central government is having to step in and give directions, right? Even soybean though it's mainly constrained by rain-fed cultivation. Now, maize is one crop which I want you guys to observe. Why I've put maize as an important crop is you would have seen that we are opening up this sector to US. And today, why maize is important? India is also pushing maize a lot. There's a huge jump in production of maize, not in yield. Jump in production, development of maize. Sorry? For livestock feed purpose, mainly more than livestock feed, ethanol. It is the one of the most important crops. It is your first generation. You know those 4 generation of ethanol producing thing. There are 4 generations in ethanol production. Don't know? Okay. In first generation of ethanol production, what you do is you tend to use food crops to produce ethanol through fermentation, all those methods. You try to produce ethanol. In second generation, so through you can say fats, feedstocks, you try to animal fats, feedstock you try to produce ethanol. Third generation, good. Microorganisms, basically algae. Microorganisms you use. Fourth generation, genetically modified. Genetically modified organisms or genetically enhanced organisms, you can say. Enhanced modified organisms, bacteria, algae, same thing, which are genetically modified. Again, about ethanol, you should be aware because last year there was a huge debate on ethanol in the country. What was the debate related to? Not sustainable. We have this E20 policy, right? Whereby 20% ethanol is to be mixed. The complaint was that because we are using ethanol, the fuel efficiency of the engine is reducing. The mileages have dropped drastically of the vehicles, right? Ethanol, which was supposed to, and engines are getting spoiled fast. You find this high speed performance, petrol, diesel, and there is one regular petrol diesel. What is the difference? Basically, ethanol mixing is different. In these high speed ones, there is less ethanol, and there is a tendency to have better mileage, right? So this was the complaint. It was there. You should be knowing about ethanol. And today India is mass producing maize mainly for that reason. So what India is doing is it is getting stuck in this loop, especially in the states of Maharashtra and Karnataka. This is happening. We are preferring to grow maize than other crops, right? Now, when I come to productivity drivers of agriculture, if I have to push the productivity of agriculture, two things is what government is underlying. One is through inputs. When I say inputs, again, in terms of, let's say, fertilizers, irrigation, yes, fertilizers, pesticides, all these things come in this. Yes, seeds, right? These are the ways. And digitization, there is a massive change today. You find that government is coming up with a digital project, AgriStack. Government has undertaken a massive, you can say, project called as AgriStack, whereby they are surveying every area. They're trying to understand what is the current soil health of it, soil health cards, all these are coming as a part of it. They're trying to collect data from all the areas and trying to understand what is the yield in that particular region so that they can subscribe better plans. And further, even with respect to, you can say, addressing insurance, right? Digitization is becoming a major part. A huge project has been taken up by the government in creating an agri stack. Complete India is going to be mapped. All agricultural lands are going to be mapped. Their yields are going to be mapped. And government is then going to plan for policies. How, where, what can be done. Right? So this is one digitization government is considering as one of the major important play areas whereby government will enhance the farmers' capabilities and income. Right? Further, when you come to seeds also, see seed village concept, all this you would have heard. Questions have come. Right? There is a mission, submission on seeds to improve the seed replacement rates. See, you have to understand one thing. You have to get high yielding seeds. One. Secondly, those seeds have to be sustainable. So earlier, see now, if you take the case of cotton, for example, this BT cotton that you have, they are terminator seeds. Means once you grow that cotton crop, the seeds that come from cotton crops are sterile. They cannot be used again to grow. Thereby, a dependency is being created on companies like Monsanto. Right? Dependency is being created on companies like Monsanto. Now, how do you break that dependency? By encouraging the farmers themselves to grow seeds, not just crops. With the crop growth, they start accumulating more and more seeds, and then they start distributing that seeds. Focus is on getting more seeds from the crop, not just growing the crop. Right? And that is why the idea of seed villages were brought in, which has done tremendously well. Right? Which has done tremendously well. There is this submission on seeds and planting material. And also government has actually last year, I think 2024, they have launched a mission on national mission on high yielding varieties of seeds. Today, government's more focus is on high yielding varieties. Only through high yielding varieties will you become more resilient. Yeah, to the same input, you should get more output. Right? So these are some things that you are finding. Now, when you come to soil health, also see, for example, in all this agri-stack, this is what they are finding. When they are going for a survey, in general, you find that a soil should have not the fertilizer. The soil should have NPK in the ratio 4:2:1, isn't it? That is the ratio of nitrogen, potassium, and phosphate. All this to be present in the soil, right? And that is why they prescribe the fertilizer also in that ratio. But what you are finding, excessive nitrogenification of soil because of urea. you find that because of subsidized prices of urea, right, we are able to, the farmers are aggressively putting nitrogen into the soil, and as a result, there is a huge imbalance being created. That is why, they favor this time, the economic survey is favoring. We should move from input subsidies. Input subsidies is what, where, for example, what is happening today, when you go to this shops for urea, you're getting input subsidy. Like the fertilizers, you're getting at a subsidized price itself directly. DBT is happened in fertilizers. Already price is reduced over there. Farmers are purchasing those fertilizers at a very subsidized price. Now there is no discrimination whether you're getting urea or you're getting diammonium phosphate or anything as such. There is no discrimination. As a result, farmers are buying more and more urea and they're just dumping urea into the field. Right? So they're telling you have to move from input subsidies to acre-based support. What do you mean by acre-based support is, let us give money to the farmers. We'll survey the lands, we'll see what is through the soil health cards, we'll get to know what is happening. Now we'll give enough money whereby a mixture of these can be bought and allow it to the wisdom of the farmer. Now, when you do that, the policy idea is, see, the policy, especially what's happening of late is, we are trying to bring behavioral changes. Now, you give a soil health card and you tell there is 150% more nitrogen. I'll give you, let's say, 1,000 rupees. You handle your farm. Now, and you are telling potassium is less, there is supposed to be 100%, 75% potassium is there. And sorry, phosphate, potassium. Let's say potassium is around 40% as such. Now, when money is given to you, now you will start thinking, why should I put more money on nitrogen? Already it's in excess. Let me bring it down to 100%. Farmers also have their wisdom. When given an opportunity to think, everyone thinks for their benefit. They'll try to save money. If you give money to them, do you think they'll go and spend? They try to save money in whatever that is coming. Even if they try to spend, they'll try to ensure that sufficient inputs have gone into the farm. Right? So the idea is that we should move towards acre-based support. Acre-based support means give enough money whereby let the farmers decide how much of urea they need. Now, suppose urea is already in excess, they won't buy urea only. Why should I buy urea when soil already has so much? I'll save some money. And there are better effects also. If he saves money, there is more rural spending and consumption, thereby driving even rural economy. Right? This is one idea which you find the economic survey floats. Right? Further, you find that when you come to the crops also, as I told you, see in 27 El Nino years, pulse production fell by 6 to 30%. Rice is highly stable. Pulses moderately vulnerable. Millets are highly vulnerable. When El Nino comes, this is what you find. Right? They are highly vulnerable. And per drop, more crop. These are the schemes we have, right? Krishi Sinchai. Again, these are the regular schemes, micro irrigation schemes, where government is giving how much percentage of support? How much support is government giving? Subsidy for micro irrigation. They are giving up to the tune of 45 to 55% of capital equipment, right? And water body rejuvenation. This is one thing that economic survey very clearly flags. We need to start building our water buffers. We need to start, and they say that will have the maximum input if we take up the activity of creating more and more water tanks. It will have the largest impact on Indian agriculture. Right? Micro irrigation caste basis. Some, yes, some, again, there is a differentiation over there also. For, I think, SC/ST based land ownership who SC/ST agricultural farmers who are owning land, I think they are getting almost 100% support in this regard. Right. Another aspect that we find is de-risking the farmer. 3 years back, 3, 4 years back, we were most of the newspapers, everyone had declared that Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana insurance for crop insurance was unsuccessful, was dead. It was not having much of an impact. Why? The major issue was how do you bring out the, you can say, measurement. If there is a loss, how much yield potential was there? How much loss has happened? Insurance is given to what? How much loss has happened with respect to the yield that was expected. Now, again, measuring yield is different. As I told you, rice grown in Karnataka might have a different yield. Rice grown in Uttar Pradesh, in Punjab, it might have a different yield. Now, within the region wise, you have to start measuring. And again, how do you know that there has been a loss? See, in this insurance scheme, only just full devastation happens. It doesn't mean that you're going to get an insurance. Even if there is a partial loss, you would get insurance. That was the idea. So you find that some recent use of technology, they've used particular technology called as winds. Sorry? Yes, yes. There is one yes technology, yield estimation, and winds for weather monitoring. Right? These technologies has been used whereby estimations have become much more easier. Right? And it has been easy for them to estimate and provide insurance. Right? And also when you come to Kisan credit cards, you find that one disparity they have noticed is GCA is ground credit availability. Right? Ground credit availability is high. For example, you take the case of Central India, you see the availability of ground credit, you see the utilization of it. Still, so many farmers are unaware of the, you can say, Kisan credit card schemes plus MIS. What is MIS? Modified Interest Subvention Scheme. You know what is this MIS? So generally, when you are borrowing, right, you borrow at lower costs of around 7%. Farmers. And if farmers are paying on time, then government is giving a further relaxation of 3%, effectively making it 4%. This is called as Modified Interest Subvention Scheme, where farmers are doing this. 4 or 5 years back, our economic survey had noted one pattern in this also. What our farmers were doing is, many of the farmers, they were getting loans for 7%, paying interest on time, it was becoming 4%. The money they got, they're putting it in FD at 8.5%, and they were making a profit of 4.5%. Right? So this was something that they were monitoring. Deposits was also growing, loans were also growing. The same loan was being put back as deposit. Right? This is what you call as arbitrage. Right? Exploiting the system. Moving forward, other factors, as I told you, now agriculture infrastructure mission is also there, where government is trying to modernize, the marketing component, the sales part of agriculture. One, they're building cold storage units, as you know, right? Processing units, warehouses. This is one of the core important things. See, with this, you will find that price stabilization happens. You're able to build more. See, the best part of building warehouses, cold storage units is, one, the crop price stabilizes. Even in the event of an adversity, you have sufficient buffer. One, price stabilization happens, plus price realization. Even farmers get better price because of this. Farmers are also able to get better price because of this. They don't have to, sometimes because of excessive supply, the prices might crash. You would have seen, especially in Karnataka, I think you would have seen the case of these tomato farmers, right? They start throwing tomato on the road. Rather, if you have such facilities, you can wait for the right moment to sell. You can moderate the oversupply, right? That is why this has a huge impact. Agri infra front, they have mobilized 1.23 lakh crores, and you find that cold storage facilities have grown a lot. Warehouses have grown a lot. And even when you come to ENAM is where you modernize your APMC yards or mandis, right? Where you have modernized your APMC yards or mandis. See, as per your APMC Act, it is mandatory that the farmer, whatever he grows, he has to sell it only in a APMC yard. In fact, if the farmer sells outside a APMC yard, then it is a criminal act. He will be arrested. Right? This is the major problem with our APMC Act. As a result, what happens is, if farmers have a restriction, they have to go to APMC yard, right? And in the APMC yard, you have all the agents who set the prices. Who set the prices for this? How much we are going to give? Now, as I told you, tomato, they don't have another opportunity. They can't come outside and start selling. It has to be sold in the APMC yard. And from APMC yard, the agents, they set their rates and then they start selling it to the retail people. This is how the process goes. And that's why I think you would have seen this farm laws which came and the government had to take it back. One of the major reform in the farm laws was they tried to commercialize this part. They said farmers need not always sell it to the APMC yard. They can enter into contracts with others. But again, it created a huge uproar, and many felt that farmers were losing protection. Mainly because of misinformation, the acts were repealed. The farmers couldn't clearly understand all the benefits of the act. As a result, they had to repeal that. There were certain controversial provisions to like minimum support prices. There won't be procurement at that rate. It will be at market rate. Something, those things actually bothered them more. But see, procurement, when government is setting MSP, right? Do you think government is procuring all the goods everywhere across India? They're only procuring from certain pockets. Government is the only procurement agency which is procuring at MSPs. The rest, everyone is going with this APMC rates only. Right? Only government is following that. And where is the government procuring from? Mainly in the Punjab, Haryana, and Western Uttar Pradesh belt. And some pockets of South India, Andhra Pradesh, some pockets. Right? Government is nowhere else procuring. Right? They procure, they put it into food FCI, that only they distribute it as in, under National Food Security Act. In your fair price shops, they are distributing that. Now, these farmers were the ones mainly who protested, who put the capital, because they were next to the capital only. They were able to, fight and get the laws repealed. Further, you also have your farmer producer organizations, 10,000 FPOs registered. See, hopefully you know the difference between a farmer producer organization and a cooperative. Do you know the difference between a cooperative and a farmer producer organization? See, generally what happened is, you would have heard about this milk revolution in India, the growth of Amul. Amul is nothing but a cooperative, a set of cooperatives which has created a federation, right? That was Amul for you. And government wanted to create this cooperative societies for agriculture too. And a lot of agricultural cooperative societies have come, especially have your PACs, primary agriculture cooperative societies, which are the principal lending unit for farmers. They are the principal lending finance unit for farmers. Farmers mostly borrow from their PACs. Now, cooperative societies had a lot of restrictions because again, every person has the eligibility to vote, and you find there were, again, it was mainly it became a political body, then a market-oriented body. That is why they came up with the idea of farmer-producer organizations, which removed all these issues that were present in cooperatives. And farmer-producer organizations is a you can say marketing body. It's a pure economic body focused on the market. Right? So 10,000 FPOs, government had put a target in 2020 that we'll register 10,000 FPOs, and this year economic services it has been done. 10,000 FPOs have been created. Now, as I told you, digital public infrastructure, this is one of the most important things that you're finding. AgriStack and Krishi Decision Support System. So what they're doing is they're creating two layers. They're creating, or you can say three layers only, data, identity, credit. How it's going to help is, AgriStack is going to give a clear idea as to what's happening in that particular land, the forecast, what is possible, how is the soil health, what are the water opportunities, what are the yields that are expected, what kind of seeds they should buy, what kind of crops they should grow. It will start giving. As a result, from AgriStack, you'll get the data. AgriStack will have all the data, you can say repository of agriculture in India. Whatever crops are grown, whatever fields are there, how much water is available, how much soil fertility is there, everything will be there in AgriStack. Now, on that, you'll also get Krishi Decision Support System, whereby farmers can actually start taking decisions looking at the advices given. These are the crops that I would recommend. Now, based on that, farmer can make a decision and grow the crop. Right? Now, further, this is also getting linked with credit. If you're going to grow, the idea is if you're going to grow, let's say, some high value crops that has been suggested. Now, what happens is maybe see, traditionally they have been growing, let's say, in some places over here, traditionally they have been growing ragi in things. Now, when advice will come, instead of ragi, you start growing maize. You'll have better. Or it might say you can grow ragi, you can grow maize or something like that. Now, the farmers might not be willing to grow maize. Traditionally, they have grown ragi and they feel it is more safe. But if you are going to grow maize, then I'll give you more credit. This is the idea that is evolving. Trying to push people into growing, trying to push farmers into growing those crops which will fetch them the highest benefits. And also maintaining, this is where the government has to maintain. See, they have to maintain a very balanced mixture of cereals, pulses, millets. Because they cannot bring any crops production down. They have to balance, they have to see from where what can be grown best and what is possible best over there. This is the idea, especially with the advent of AI, these are possible. See, in Karnataka, you have a very good platform called as Fruits. This has been mentioned in your economic survey too, where especially for your horticulture crops, right, you're getting a very good system with respect to what kind of things can be grown, all those things, they're giving an advice. Reports to banks, MSP, and yeah, credit. In this case of Andhra Pradesh, they are doing surveys using drones, GIS, right? 81 lakh land parcels surveyed, 86,000 disputes have been resolved. This is the benefit. AgriStack is very, very important. Again, you should be knowing about it. A potential question for your prelims regarding AgriStack. Now, as I already spoken about to you, ethanol and maize. Now there is a challenge that is popping up. You want Atmanirbharta of energy, as well as you want Atmanirbharta of pulses. In 2025, I think somewhere around September, the government had announced Atmanirbharta in pulses is required for us. It's a potential question for you this year. Atmanirbharta in pulses. Government has self-sufficiency in pulses production. Government has taken a lot of steps in the last year. Now, with respect to that, how do you balance this? Pulses and oilseeds are losing acreage because of growth of maize. If you grow maize, you'll get more benefits, you'll get more money, but you are losing for pulses and oilseeds. Import dependency might increase. And ethanol blending is saving 1.44 lakh crore in forex. Less oil, less petrol you are importing, 20% less petrol. Target is C20 blending, as you have spoken. How do you balance this? That has become a bigger challenge for the government. This you can use in your ethics paper. How one crop can throw up so many problems. How do you do that? See, now this is where, when you are doing your ethics case studies and all, you start using these examples. If some area is there, you have to bring improvement, you can start telling, bringing a diversified mix of maize and pulses in the dry region. If they say a particular dry region is not having water and all, you can become more and more specific in giving solutions. Rather than telling best crops which can be grown, if you tell this crop, I'll ensure because there is good rate in market. If you integrate this knowledge and write, it will definitely increase your scores. Food exports, we have already discussed. Food export share is also increasing. Processed foods, especially 20.4%. It has increased to that, and you have approximately $50 billion. I've already spoken in the first class also with respect to exports of food. One, what India is facing a challenge is they're not able to deeply integrate with respect to agricultural products in the global economy. Why? Because whenever what's happening in India is there is a reactionary policy. Suppose, let's say, all of a sudden sugar rate starts increasing. You stop exports of sugar so that there is enough domestic supply. Onion rates are increasing. You stop exports of onion. How will another country rely on them? And especially in matters of food, how will another country rely on them? Isn't it? It becomes a huge challenge because in India, you don't have sufficient capability to ensure that you can even export as well as manage domestic consumption. Right? This is the major issue that India is facing in the global market. Right? That's why our agri exports have not been able to break through and go beyond a point. And especially, as I have already discussed in economic survey, they're speaking about strategic indispensability. You might have heard about this word, strategic indispensability. Today, gone are the days where just because labor cost is less, I'll invest in this country, I'll buy from this country. Gone are the days. Every country is aligning politically. Geostrategic friendship, geostrategic trade. Europe might be more inclined to buy from India, even though there is 2%, 3% more cost than from Bangladesh. They feel there is more ideological coherence. The chances of them getting into disputes is less when ideological coherence is there. When there is ideological difference, those countries always there will be a challenge. For example, you take the case of China and US. Both are dependent on each other for certain very critical products. Now, because of ideological differences, what is happening? Both are getting into fights, right? So this is a major challenge. Right. Another thing that has been mentioned is about National Mission on Natural Farming. Zero budget, natural farming, you would have heard, right? Where you only use natural products. So you find that 17,000 clusters have been established. 15.79 lakh farmers have been enrolled. This mission is also progressing, right, to improve the soil health. See, this is the sentence that you'll be writing in your mains. You should record this sentence. Agriculture as conclusion. It should move from volume-driven input use to efficiency-driven crop growth. Definitely this year in your mains, one question will be on this, on the yield. They'll be asking a question in your mains which speaks about, though yields are less, volumes have increased, yields are less, what are the factors contributing to this divergence? How can India resolve? Some question will come on those lines. right? So final for Viksit Bharat 2047, resilience and income secure future. Water security is important. Rejuvenate water bodies, as I told you. R&D innovation, as I spoke about climate resilient. Fertilizer reform, correct the nutrient balance and diversification. See, the most important thing is this word in your economic survey. I find that diversification has been used so many times in your economic survey, not just for agriculture. Diversification of exports, diversification in industry, diversification of services, diversification of partnerships. Diversification is a keyword. Why diversification? Then it gives you stability. In fact, even if you read today's newspaper also, today, yesterday, last week full, there was this question regarding Russian imports, oil imports. Is India stopping Russian oil imports? What is the reply given by MEA? We are diversifying our crude oil supply for national in consideration of national interest and security. So what's happening is government is trying to tell that it's not that we are going to buy less from Russia. We are going to buy from US also. We are going to buy from Russia also. They're not told they'll continue buying from Russia. But as far as what we have understood from the deal and what the MEA spokesperson has spoken, India has entered into an agreement where US will provide lesser cost crude oil than Russia. Then India is willing to buy. Already Russia is giving crude oil at a very low cost rate. And India has negotiated in terms of if you give us lesser at least Russian rates or less than Russian rates, we are willing to buy. We have no issues. So for us, from where crude oil comes, it doesn't matter as long as we are getting better price. And that's why they've added another clause in that. If US changes any conditions, then the complete deal is changed. There is one particular sentence. If US and India both, they change any one particular condition, then the complete deal falls apart. Then they can both can take decision in that regard. Means if now US backs out and says no, we are going to increase your crude oil, I'm going to go to Russia. So that's how they have played, but we have to see a complete deal is evolving still. So many things are dropped. Now that 500 billion investment from India to US that has been dropped in the US trade agreement. US has given the trade agreement, right? US Commerce Ministry. 3 days before all these clauses were there, 500 billion investment, it has been dropped yesterday. A lot of changes are happening. Deal is still evolving. Before the deal is done, a lot of hangama is happening. But it's good. Only then even, concerns of people will be heard by the government and government will be able to better decide. Democratic nation, they'll get the inputs and they'll be able to decide better. Now, moving to industry. Now, this is one sector where you find a huge difference, a huge leap that has happened. Earlier, we used to go, again, with industry, you were mostly dependent on traditional industries. You find this time economic survey is telling the new age industries, they are getting very much integrated with global value chains and they have contributed to 46% of the gross value addition in the industrial sector. All the new age industries, especially your semiconductor, all these things which are coming up, they are contributing rapidly. See, one of the other ideas in the economic survey that they're speaking and even which government is trying to do is get integrated into global value chain, right? Get integrated in such a manner that you become indispensable, like China. You like China, you hate China, you curse China, but you're dependent on China. Because they invested in those critical areas where there was huge dependency, where there was huge requirement. And India is also now trying to do that. This year, for example, you find that there is a mission on rare earths in the budget. Rare earths is again another dependency. India wants to start getting into rare earths. India is already into semiconductors. Again, that was a critical dependency. India is trying to enter those high-tech sectors, high technology sectors, which can put India in the middle of the supply chain. where without India, it can't go further, or without India's production, it can't go further. They're not looking at the final product, they're looking at the product in the middle, where you're absolutely integrated and India becomes you can say, a processor of raw material, not a final product creator, processor of raw material. You get integrated into the supply chain, right? So that's what they're trying to say. We are trying to move from cost arbitrage to global indispensability. What do you mean by cost arbitrage? Earlier, why people used to come to India? Why most of the companies used to invest in India, FDI? Because Indian labor was cheap. Indian raw material input cost was cheap. That is why they felt if they come to India and invest in India, they'll get lower cost labor and they'll be able to make better benefits out of that. That is the cost arbitrage. Today, the economic survey is telling people are coming to India for setting up these units, right? And India is integrating in the global supply chain, and India is becoming a trusted partner for most of the countries because India is not volatile. Inside India, there is a lot of volatility, but when we go to outside, you find that we are having a uniform outlook. And I think history has told us in the last 30, 40 years, history has very well established whichever governments are coming in the central government, they are not undoing most of the schemes. When it becomes bad business, when the environment becomes bad, is all of a sudden, when you come to power, you remove all the schemes of the previous government, you stop all the development projects initiated by previous government. That is when there is unease of doing business. This is what actually happened in Andhra Pradesh. What happened is, in the first term, Chandrababu Naidu, when he was there, he initiated a lot of projects. He couldn't complete it. But when Jagan Mohan Reddy became the CM, he immediately stopped all the projects. There was losses to the tune of 50,000 crores, 50,000 to 55,000 crores. He started issuing fresh. He stopped the very construction of capital also, which created a huge confusion whether Andhra Pradesh is going to get a capital or not. 3 capitals, all these ideas were floated. Indecision. Investors didn't gain confidence. We didn't find much FDI happening. So you find that at central government levels, these changes are not happening. Measured changes are happening. See, though the Prime Minister, how much ever he criticized about Manrega, in 2014, 2015, 16, he criticized Manrega a lot. He said, this is a scheme, we will keep it to showcase Congress inefficiency, all that he told. But still the scheme ran. Now also, they're not able to throw away the scheme. They are transforming the scheme. They're still not able to throw away the scheme, close the scheme. That's another problem in India. Once you start a scheme, there is no closure to that. Anything you start in India, there is no closure to it. Right? Any scheme you start, only budget allocations can decrease, but closure to it is always a challenge. Closing a scheme in India is always a challenge, that we have finished something. Anyway, coming to this. So what is happening? As I told you, we are moving towards strategic indispensability in global value chains. And one of the major drivers is your PLI, PM Gati Shakti, and there is a new act which has been passed, ANRF Act. Have you heard about this act? 2023. Anushilan National Research Foundation. ANRF Act. It's a statutory body, a very, very important body. And again, I think this is on this, there is a possible question this year. What is this body doing? What is this body doing? You find that ANRF, Anusandhan, sorry, not Anushilan, Anusandhan National Research Foundation. It's a statutory body. This body mainly what it does is, it is looking at all the trade opportunities that is possible, where high value growth is possible, what is required, what kind of, let's say, factories are required, what kind of trade export opportunities are there. So it's basically doing all the groundwork. It's doing all the groundwork on what kind of institutions you can establish, to which countries you can export. It is giving you everything. If you visit NRF Foundation also, you can see that foundation. Suppose you want to, let's say, you take your cashews, you want to process cashews, make it Pudina cashew, something like that. You go to NRF, it will tell you to which countries you can export. Where there is huge demand, at what cost, better prices you are getting, you export to this countries, it will start giving you advisories. Not just that, what opportunities are there within India where you can set up? It is giving you business ideas also. Business ideas, business value chain, what all you should know about the business, everything it is giving. Go do it. Huge transformation this is, because we didn't have a database like this. We didn't have a guidance like this. People are opening businesses, they have to learn through what to do, how to go about in the business. ANRF is giving you that, you can say, path. It is giving you path, it is telling you opportunities, what are the threats, everything it is giving very clearly, and how to avail credit for which scheme you get, how much money from government, everything is given in one place. Most of the people today, especially MSMEs and all, they do not know what all benefits they have. See, even if you see that farmer thing, I told you, credit availability is so high in central India, and how much has been utilized? You saw the bar was very small. To the availability, how much credit has been used? Very less. Because they do not know, lack of knowledge. Most of them do not know which all government schemes are there, what are the benefits that are possible. Now, ANRF is an organization which is going to give, which is giving away all this. It's a very important organization. As per economic survey, the ANRF is mentioned in almost all the chapters. Right? These are the things. See, maybe there's no chapter on ANRF, but it has been mentioned everywhere. And these are the things, suddenly it might come up in your prelims, right? Underlying currents. That's why I say always in when you're studying for UPSC, observe patterns, analyze, observe analysis, observe patterns. That is what UPSC tends to ask. They do not go to the direct output. Now they are going to direct output also. UPSC unpredictable, but still they are looking more at patterns. How much? Because see, yesterday also I was discussing with a student. He came up with this planning commission question, which came in 2019 or 20. There was one MCQ on planning commission which came in 2019. Second 5-year plan, fifth 5-year plan, sixth 5-year plan. So then I was, that's what I was explaining. See, they are not expecting you to go back and read all the 5-year plans and see what has happened in that. There was if you have a very clear idea of the, you can say, mega trend of the after 1950. You know that second 5-year plan was the plan which brought in industrial revolution, which spoke about import substitution. With that, when you see the options, you get your answer. You're able to understand that. That's how UPSC is focusing on. If you're able to understand the trend, you'll be able to solve it. Anyway, see, as I told you, medium high-tech activities today is contributing to 46.3% of the manufacturing value added. Value addition is coming mostly from these sectors, 46.3%. And see, they're telling another word, offensive leverage in critical technology. India wants to have an offensive leverage. I don't know why they're using the word offensive. Offensive means aggressive. Oh, yeah. So that if anyone tries to see, today China is in such a position that other countries are not able to do anything to China. Offensive leverage. China will immediately say, I won't supply. And it has done. It brought Japan to its knees by stopping the supply of rare earth magnet, many of the raw materials. Japan was left, it was not in a position to tackle that. For 2 years, they didn't do. That's why now Japan is trying to build a defense, everything. Instead of going for the seamless globalization, where anyone can integrate with any country and create a dependency, today you are looking at geostrategic partners and strategic indispensability. You cannot replace China in the world. You cannot replace China in the world. It's very, very difficult today. US is also not able to. They slapped 200%, 250% tariff. For how much? Barely 1 week, 10 days. China stopped supply. Then US had to go down. Immediately, all these, some chemicals also were stopped. US immediately had to bow down to China and remove the tariffs and come to an agreement. Now, when you look at manufacturing growth also in India, you can see there's strong expansion when you compare to other countries. You find that India is doing really good in terms of manufacturing growth. Though there is geopolitics, inflationary pressures, and supply chain realignments, this is happening a lot. Supply chain realignments, right? So for India's manufacturing outlook looks positive. It is happening on a positive note. Further, when you see now what they are telling is, see, this is how where we are moving. This is a chart which I'm putting to tell you where we are moving. First, we had become a low tech cost arbitrage country. Means we were mainly focused on labor intensive sectors, trying to get in cheap, trying to get work. See, even outsourced work, or let's say if earlier for mobile phones, for example, mainly assembly used to happen. Today, manufacturing is happening. There's a huge difference between assembly and manufacturing. Manufacturing is your manufacturing the core components, right? You're producing that. Earlier, you used to bring, assemble, and sell. For example, you take the case of pharmaceuticals also. Earlier, today also, to a certain extent, we are dependent on this active pharmaceutical ingredients, APIs, right? But you're getting that, you're converting it into something and you used to send. Now there is focus on manufacturing APIs in India. So we are looking more and more into ensuring one self-reliance, and we are getting into new age tech. We are moving away from an idea that India was mainly for low tech cost arbitrage. India, why foreigners used to come to India only for low input costs, right? Earlier. Today, we are moving towards why they are coming to India? Tech availability, high skilled workforce with tech availability, which can mass manufacture to the world, right? Assembly and component manufacturing, current acceleration phase. This is what our PLI is trying to do. And the next phase is where we are going to go into the R&D part, where we ourselves will start doing R&D and are able to develop our own technologies. This is the growth cycle that you should observe, right? And see, India's competitive industrial performance rank has improved to 37 rank. Yeah, this is the path. This is how we are progressing. Now, you would have seen your IIP index or in IIP index of industrial production, just giving you an idea which sectors are doing well. Steel, as you can see, India has become the second largest crude steel producer globally, as mentioned. And the focus is for specialty steel, which has a PLI. You know about the PLI scheme, right? Production linked incentive scheme. How many sectors? 14 sectors. There might be a question in your prelims. Which of the sectors have been covered under your PLI? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 area. Only 2, only 3, only 1. So you should be clear which are the 14 sectors which have been covered under your PLI scheme, right? And you find that one of the most successful one is electronics in this. Electronics stands out in your PLI sector as one of the most successful one. Specialty steel, specialty steel is a different kind of steel. It's not your regular steel. Nitrogen embedded steel for different purposes. Today it's becoming important, especially for automobiles and all. Different kinds of steels are being used with different strengths, different requirements. Specialty steel is also gaining ground. Sorry, let me finish this. And when you come to the case of coal also, you find that import dependency has decreased and we have been able to, have a high production. This time there was even this Bharat coking coal and all, it made an IPO debut and it had very good financials. And chemicals also, as I told you, we are trying to manufacture. We are trying to get into that APIs, as I told you. Slowly we are moving phase by phase. Further, electronics manufacture. Now India is the world's second largest mobile manufacturer. Very important. See, the second and first is becoming a challenge because UPSC has asked these questions in the last 3 years. Who is the top producer? India, which is the first producer, second producer, right? Rice, wheat, all these questions are being asked. So it is better to know this. Unfortunately, we are UPSC is getting into other becoming similar to other exams. One or two questions are coming, but those are easy questions also actually. And exports now it is the third largest category, electronics. 300 plus units have been operational versus 2 in 2014. Driver PLI for large scale electronics manufacturing, right? So you find that from 1.2 lakh crore to 3.3 lakh crore. Exports has risen, production has risen from 6.4 lakh crore to 11.3 lakh crore in just 3 years. It's a huge, that's why it has surged 30x in a decade in all the electronic goods. Now, when you come to automobiles also, they are telling India is the third largest passenger vehicle market. I'm sorry, you have to remember all these things. Third largest as such. Policy, you are having PLI in automotives and PME drive for your, and see the growth in EV registrations, how much it is growing. Market in 2020, 0.1 million means only 1 lakh. 3 lakh, 8 lakh, 15 lakh, 20 lakh, 25 lakh in just 5 years. The growth is astounding, 1 lakh to 25 lakh. So the market is about to explode. By 2030-35, it will be a huge market, EV market. Pharmaceuticals, India's pharmacy of the world, I've already explained to you what is the... See, India's biggest benefit is ability to manufacture complex generic medicine. In last class also, I explained to you the pharma story of India, whereby you find that pharmaceuticals, how India was able to, when tackle the issue faced in WTO. When WTO came in, India couldn't any longer manufacture generic medicines. So India came out with complex generic medicines. Simple generic medicines, they couldn't. That is why you find that medicines in India always have 2-3 components. You won't get only paracetamol. You'll get paracetamol and another 2-3 components. So India is becoming good in manufacturing complex generic because complex generics don't attract WTO rules. You can say this TRIPS agreement, all these things are there, right? They're not able to attract those provisions. If you had only manufactured paracetamol or something, then there were certain patents at that time. But if you manufacture along with the complex generic medicine, then no patents. And India is also becoming a high valued medical device export, right? High tech. In fact, last month it was in news that India is emerging for this magnetic MRI scanning machine. Yes, India was able to manufacture its own MRI this year, and it's now at a very cost-effective rate, and it's able to sell it. So India is emerging in medical devices too, right? Now, the most important upsurge, the Indian semiconductor mission. Even day before yesterday, you would find in Bangalore an event happened 3-4 days back, or I think 5-6 days, last week. Minister Ashwini Vaishnaw was in Bangalore to open a unit. What was the unit regarding? See, one thing that you have to understand before I get into this, you have to understand what do you mean by an ecosystem in semiconductor? Because a lot of people do not understand what's happening in a semiconductor, right? So when I take a semiconductor ecosystem, what all is there? What all comes into a semiconductor ecosystem? What all comes into a semiconductor ecosystem? So one part is fabless design, or you can say chip design, right? Yes, See, by logic, chip design will be there, chip manufacturing will be there. Right? By logic, these two components will be there. Is there any other components? Sorry? Yeah, that comes into this. Next comes your assembly. You call it as assembly, tracking, marking, and packaging. ATMP. Right? Then, when you speak of an ecosystem, R&D unit. Assembly, testing, marking, packaging, R&D unit. Right? Then, for this manufacturing, right? Chip manufacturing, it's not just manufacturing the chips. To manufacture, you need capital goods. How do you manufacture a chip or a silicon wafer? Now, let me break down manufacturing further. In manufacturing, one, you have your capital goods like this lithographic machines, lithographic lasers, right? Second component that you have is your purpose for which you're doing this chips or wafers. The silicon chip that for which you're doing. There are two kinds of wafers. You have to understand this. Where we are today, you'll understand. One kind of wafers is advanced logic. Right? Second type is memory. Memory fabs, you can say. Basically, when you're manufacturing for semiconductor, there are two kinds of, semiconductor is nothing but you're having your silicon wafers where all the code gets embedded. Silicon is the semiconductor which you're using. You know what's a semiconductor, first of all? What is a semiconductor? Because conductivity is between conductor and insulator. Good. So basically, it's like a switch you can consider. Semiconductor is like a switch. So that if there is more, we can say electricity, it allows it to pass. If there is less electricity, it doesn't allow it to pass, which helps us in designing logic. Right? Basically, your computer runs on zeros and ones. Assembly language, finally, it is nothing but 0 and 1. You would have studied, right? All that binary codes 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, right? That is nothing but on and off. That's why semiconductors are more useful. Now, when you're designing these chips, it will have two purposes. We can classify it into two purposes. One is where you develop logics in the chip, right? Second kind of semiconductor or you can say wafers that are being developed is for memory purposes, where you store the data, right? So semiconductor, you find there are two uses. One is for logic and one is for memory fabs. And right now in India, we are focusing on advanced logic based chips. Currently in India, we don't have a memory fab yet. We are not manufacturing memory fab because in memory fab there is again challenges. There it's always like it has a cyclical demand. Memory fabrication. When memory is required, storage. Today you find that there is huge demand because of data storage requirements. But again, it's a cyclical, you can say, field. But this you won't be much dependent on this. You're more dependent on this logic. This is where I value growth is there. And today government is focusing on growing this. Now when you're creating logics on the wafer, basically lithography is etching. Laser comes and starts etching. These wafers are in the tune of nanometers, right? So today you find that around 28 nanometer to 30 nanometer wafers we are able to produce more than 75% of semiconductor chips that are being produced are in the range of 28 nanometer to 30 nanometer. Means they're a bit more thicker. And the challenge comes in making a 2 nanometer one. These require high advanced. And that was what was inaugurated in Bangalore last week. Qualcomm is setting up a 2 nanometer fabrication unit in Bangalore. Where in Bangalore? I don't know. Where in Bangalore? Right? This India, we were right now, we are over here, we have reached over here, we are moving towards this. That's what I'm telling. We are slowly going into tech sectors, right? Very limited countries, very limited companies have these capabilities, right? And see, even when you go to the case of semiconductor growth in India, you can say we started with this ISM, right? ISM 1.0 was more focused on AMTP or ATMP. I think you can call it. Means assembly, marking, testing, packaging. You are not manufacturing, right? And today we are moving towards ISM 2.0, where you are into manufacturing. Now, for this, as I said, you have a whole lot of system, not just creating an ATMP. Even in chip manufacturing, capital goods, this part. Also, you have particular requirements, chemicals that are required, creation of labs. Labs have to be dust free, which is very, very difficult. It has to be dust free, the complete labs. That's why it takes almost 10 to $15 billion to make one lab. There should not be even one minute amount of dust. I'm not speaking about this big dust also. To the tune of nanometers, I'm speaking. Because there is a process called as, you can say, enriching the wafers, where you add one atom of impurity, donor atom, which will have an impact on millions of atoms of silicon. One donor atom can have an impact. So you see the level of cleanliness that is required in a lab, right? That is what we are looking at. Very ultra pure water is required. So it is, you can say, capital intensive. The requirements, the setup is very, very intensive. And this is your ecosystem that you need to develop for this. Chemicals to be used, all those things you need to develop. Clear? So India was earlier mostly involved only in chip design, fabless design. Right? This was something that we had. With ISM, we are moving towards this. Last year, 2025, I think somewhere in September or something, September or October, there was a chip presented. It came in the newspapers where the current minister, IT, electronics minister, Ashwini Vaishnav, was giving the first chip to Prime Minister. First made in India chip, completely made in India semiconductor chip. They had given. I think it was developed by ISRO Vikram grade for some purpose. Right? So finally, we are developing self-reliance in this sector. Understood what happens in this sector when I speak about the ecosystem? This we are having a lot today. This is not at all a challenge for us. Today, chip design also we had. Mainly these. This is yet to come up in more. Yeah. Further, you find that in textiles, you're having this man-made fibers, which is got PLI. Man-made fibers, and this is a sunrise sector where you find that particular textiles. See, regular cotton, it's not those kind of things. When you're doing value addition, and let's say you're doing for this Kevlar jackets in defense, again you're using cotton, but you're mixing cotton with certain chemicals, whereby you're getting certain you can say materials which are very strong, which don't allow bullets to pass through. These are value-added materials, man-made fibers, all these get into that part, right? So government is trying to push for such kind of innovations. And what was happening earlier for textile sector is, when you take the case of textile, let's say you want to open a cotton, or we can say you want to create a textile yarn. Spinning is there, weaving is there, so many processes are there. Again, you have to procure from a particular region where cotton is grown. You have to bring it to this area. All these value addition process used to happen in different areas. So you had a distributed cluster. You had a fragmented cluster, or you can say fragmented approach, where spinning was somewhere, weaving was somewhere, right? Now government has created this PM Mitra Parks, where everything is there in one place. Where everything is there in one place, right? In terms of spinning, weaving, again, transportation costs have reduced. Thereby, it becomes more competitive. Textiles become more competitive. Transportation adds almost 10% to your cost. Generally, any product you take, 10 to 15% goes in transportation cost, and that gets reduced because of this, right? So PM Mitra Parks are being created for that, so that India can become the global exporter. So that today it is the sixth largest global exporter. Even today it was in news, if you have read the news about Bangladesh. Yes, the India-US trade deal is still evolving. Yesterday it came in news that Bangladesh has got a concession from US in terms of textiles. If you are going to export, let's say, textiles to US, and Bangladesh uses US cotton in making the textiles, they're going to have 0% duties. If you're going to use any other cotton, they are going to be taxed. But you are going to use US cotton, you are going to get it at 0% import duty. And whereas India has got a deal for 18%. Right? So today India has also approached US that if we import your cotton, will you give us 0%? Now this is actually a very risky scenario, because already India, see, Bangladesh doesn't grow cotton. It makes sense for Bangladesh, but India grows cotton. India is one of the largest producers in cotton. So it might have an impact. Let us see. Somehow get into US market. Yes. Anyway, capital goods also, as you can see, one best part that you can see is there is rising imports in capital goods. What does it reflect? There is more investment going into capital expenditure. You will only import when you are having more demand within the country. See, how many coffee vending machines you'll buy? Only if you're going to create more and more coffee shops. Only then you're going to import coffee vending machines that cappuccino and all make up. Same thing. If you're importing more, that means there is more demand. That means you're able to sell it more. Capital investment is increasing. And generally in imports, you always see that in imports, we should see what are we importing. If we are importing more and more capital goods, it's a healthy precedent. Then importing final consumption goods. We'll take a break after this. Another 2 slides. We'll take a break, then we'll get back. The policy engine PLI, as I told you, see, finally PLI impact dashboard. They've given 1.97 lakh, almost 2 lakh crores has been given. And 18.7 lakh crore of production has happened. 12.6 lakh jobs have been created across 14 sectors. Now, when you come to, you have another component. It's not PLI, another national manufacturing mission. Again, there is a lot of changes in this. They have released a vision document whereby by 2035, India's manufacturing should reach 25% of the GDP. This was there earlier also. It was 2025 earlier. Now it has moved to 2035. Right? This scheme is there since Congress era. Further, rapid expansion, as you can see in automotive, structural reform is happening in FIX, and you find semiconductors and EVs, there is growth. All of this is happening. Now, as I spoke about logistics cost also, so we are moving from the idea of siloed projects to integrated planning. That's what I'm trying to say. Now, I gave you an example of PM Mitra Park, where everything is getting concentrated. Same thing, plug and play infrastructure is being built everywhere. Now, government is even getting the industries ready. You come and operate. Come and operate, come and run it, take your profit. Right? In Dholera, Greater Noida, all these infrastructures are coming, right? Which is completely integrated with data. You know, especially this PM Gati Shakti Yojana. What does PM Gati Shakti do? PM Gati Shakti Yojana. It is, yes, it's mainly an infrastructure driven program whereby they're integrating all the departments. Today, as of now, your economic services, 57 departments are working in coordination for infrastructure development, logistics development. All these are getting integrated. Transit-oriented corridors, as I said, when you say high speed corridors are being developed, it is being developed means parallelly you'll find a lot of industries who are going to come up. They're industrial corridors. What kind of industries are to come? Where, which industries are to come? All those have been, have been working. That is why, because PM Gati Shakti Yojana has come about and that coordination is happening at a high level, so many projects are getting approved. To be truthful, in the last 10 years also, you find that last 3 years is where you have found real qualitative growth. Though they keep telling 10 years, 12 years, all that. In the last 3 years, you find that huge growth in terms of industries has happened. Because it took time, structural reforms were required. For them to even, that's what I feel, to understand our bureaucracy, it takes a lot of time. You see, what's happening is, there was one recent video by which came out of some person had recorded Prime Minister when he was just speaking casually, candidly. He was telling when I came into the office and I sat, these many number of files came to me. I was looking at the files like this. Then I realized I cannot become an academic person by reading all the files and signing. If I go like this, I will never be able to solve the problems. That is where, that much amount of work is there. First to read the files, understand the problems, what is there, then get things ready, then to bring changes, it takes time. For India, it takes time. And as you can see, logistics cost is also declining. It's declined from 8.8% to 7.97%, which is a very healthy sign. Even in the case of R&D expenditure, I already spoke to you about this Anusandhan National Research Foundation, right? They are giving very good advices to the private sector, but we still have lower participation, private sector participation in investment to R&D. That is what we have given, 41%. Government is only majorly doing, whereas in other countries it is 70%. Advanced economies, basically. But we are 88. 88? No, more I think, sorry. 38. Sorry. 38, we have improved from 81. And 2 lakh startups, third scientific publications globally. Right? You keep getting a lot of research papers also. Next part, MSMEs, 35% of manufacturing GVA, they add 48% of exports, and you can even add another data. 31% of GDP. They contribute 31% to your GDP. Right? So MSME credit growth has also been off-taking. You find that there was SME IPO boom. I already discussed in the previous class, but anyway, again, credit growth, it has been booming. You find that government and banks, they have been largely focused on giving money to MSME. I think even in this budget, which we'll discuss later, MSME was the star player, where they're trying to give more and more credit to MSME. And the best part is NPAs are declining in MSMEs. They're giving it in a graded, staggered approach, where they're trying to build the MSMEs. Clear? And much of these, this trades has been expanded again in the budget also. When I come to budget, I speak about trades. trade receivables discounting system, right? And or your online dispute resolution is happening at a fast scale for delayed payment. All these are getting resolved. SME reclassification has happened. More liquidity has entered into the market. Now, another step taken by government. Another step taken by government is quality control orders. Government has started institutionalizing quality control orders so that there is zero defect in the goods that we are producing. See that you can see has had a huge impact on our toy sector, for example. How it has made a turnaround for our toy. Government is coming out with qualitative, you can say QCOs. Earlier, it was not very clear. It was not being done properly. Now, government, what it's doing is, with respect to quality control, they're bringing certain standards which our industry is able to adopt to. As a result, you find that, for example, in the toy sector, the Indian-made toys are getting good recognition that it is able to withstand. You see China-made toys which are flooded in the market. 50 rupees, 40 rupees you'll get. Not even one day it will come. So Indian toy market is growing because Indian toys now they're making it which are environmentally safe, which are more robust, which are more resilient. There's a lot of focus by the government even on the toy sector. They're trying to put in a lot of money to the toy sector, right? And toy sectors are where mostly MSMEs are there. Most of the MSMEs are in toy sectors. See, that's what they have tripled 143 QCOs covering 723 products. The government had come out with the slogan zero effect, zero defect. Means for exports, we shouldn't have any environmental consequences. We shouldn't export goods which will not have a longer lifetime. So finally, you find that offensive leverage and defensive sovereignty use high-tech exports to enforce systemic discipline, tariff rationalization. These are the three ideas mainly. GBC integration, shift from import to export-oriented assembly, tariff rationalization, neutralize duties on inputs to boost competitiveness. India has been going through all this trade deals. And thirdly, advanced manufacturing, right? Main idea is offensive leverage. This is what India is trying to do. Now let us move on to infrastructure. Let us understand what is happening in infrastructure. So you see, infrastructure is a very, very, very important part for our economy. How important it is in the case of infrastructure, if you put 1 rupee, you find that it will generate 3 to 4 rupees for the GDP. Right? 1 rupee investment in infrastructure leads to 3-4 rupees. Right? That is why government has been focusing a lot on infrastructure. Right? On infrastructure, there has been huge investment, which is very much visible in the number of roads, railways, airports, ports, all that is happening with respect to infrastructure. It's huge. And they are moving towards network integration. As I told you, see, they're not looking at just building a road or anything. They're trying to integrate things. They're trying to bring in a system, a complete holistic idea of development, rather than go with a fragmented idea. Right? It's not like, see, now if you see even in the budget also, why I'm speaking about this is, the idea starts reflecting the budget. In the budget, once they start announcing, for example, they announced this high speed corridors. They announced some trains from, Bangalore to Chennai, Bangalore to Hyderabad, Mumbai to Pune. When they're announcing, why are they announcing in these areas? There is already industrial growth in this. That is why when you announce bullet trains in these areas, it makes more sense. People will be willing to travel from Bangalore to Hyderabad if it's within 1 hour, it will immediately boost a lot of business. There is a lot of travelers who are traveling from there, one. And again, there is network integration of different various fields, right? So that is one of the major reasons that you find that infrastructure investment is going on a huge scale. As you can see, infrastructure investment, how much it is growing. As I told you, in last 3-4 years is where you actually see a lot of things happening on ground. It is in 2022, it was 5.92. It has doubled. Even this budget, 11.2 crores, lakh crores worth of infrastructure investment is happening. And as I told you, for every 1 rupee, you are generating almost 2.5 to 3.5 rupee. And where you find most of the investment is going in is one is in power and road. You can say all the transport areas. Power and transport is where majority share is going. Total deployment, you can see 13.91 lakh crores. 7.44 lakh crores is going in power, renewable energy, right? All this nuclear energy also, this time they have opened up Shanti Bill, right? Government has introduced Shanti Bill, whereby they are planning to bring in nuclear power, try to get 300 gigawatt, I think, was what was assigned in Shanti Bill. They're trying to bring in the small modular nuclear reactors, which can be set up anywhere with ease, rather than go for big nuclear reactors, small nuclear reactors in different places. That's the idea. So these are the investments that is happening today, right? Mostly in the power sector, right? And you find that in power sector, there is huge growth also. Anyway, coming, another thing is now investment, money, from where all it is coming, right? From where all it is coming, it is going beyond bank credit. As I told you, the funds which have been mobilized by REITs. That's why I think question came in 2024. That REIT, I mean, INVIT question came in 2024 because there was a huge jump. But still, even today, you can see 2026, 2025 up to November financial year, 31 lakh crores for 24-25 financial year. That's a huge sum. 30 lakh crores you are getting from here only, 30,000 crores, 31,000 crores from INVITs and REITs. It's a fundamental shift. No, see, what we are trying to do, as we have already told you, the twin balance sheet problem is solved, is what your economic survey is telling. What was the twin balance sheet problem? Only government used to spend, private sector didn't spend. But now you find that the private sector are also spending. And these are the mechanisms through which the investments are coming in, right? And you can see even non-banking financial companies growth, right? 43% growth in credit has happened. Now, as I told you, it is the end of the silo era. That here it is, the silo era is done. We are no longer looking at everything in a silos manner. Today I'll do some road, tomorrow I'll do railway, nothing like that. It's all integrated towards regional development, how we are going to go about, right? So for that only we have come out with the Gati Shakti and National Logistics Policy. As you know, in Gati Shakti, I told you, it's a multimodal GIS-enabled planning where Gati Shakti, all the projects are getting integrated across the departments. The economic services, 57 departments have been integrated as such. And some 1,700 projects or 800 projects have been initiated as a result of this. And national logistics policy is nothing but to improve competitiveness via leads framework, basically trying to reduce the delays, time delays and cost overruns due to transport. This is the thing that where you find PM Gati Shakti, it's moved from siloed planning to overall planning. That is where Gati Shakti is very, very important. It is no longer in that siloed planning means in a bunker, you're having a very narrow approach. That is the siloed planning. Now coming to partnership paradigm, PPPs, you find that, you know what is a private public-private partnership, right? Where both of them invest. And generally, government creates an enabling platform and private sector invest in that. Now, earlier, you see they are moving from risk transfer to true partnership, whereby the state is absorbing early stage risks in terms of land clearances. Most of the PPP projects used to get stuck out there only, whereby the government puts in, let's say, some amount, the private sector put in some amount, but they get stuck because of land clearances as such. Now, what government is doing is, first we'll get all the clearances, then we'll go for a PPP for the project. So there is more of partnership. See, almost 5.6 lakh crore worth of PPP projects have been approved. Further, when you take the case of roadways, huge investment. See, two sectors we have spoken over there. We saw two sectors. Power comes first, roads are coming second. When you take the case of roadways, you can see high-speed corridors, how much we have built from 550 kilometers to 5,600, 300 kilometers in a decade, right? The next increase. And you also find that construction speed has increased by 2.3 times, capex has increased by 5.8 times, average annual construction speed accelerated. And even in terms of innovation, asset recycling, first public invite plan. So you find that mainly financial innovations are happening to finance road sector. So you had a public INVIT is nothing but infrastructure investment trust, right? So technology also, again, drone-based surveys, AI-based pothole detection, all this they are trying to do. So in Bangalore, if you AI will be confused which is proper road and which is pothole. There will be more of potholes than road, right? So it might start flagging which are good roads as pothole roads. Anyway, moving on. Railways also, you find that there is increasing modernization of railways. You have seen Vande Bharat, all this. And this budget, when I come to budget railways, I'll speak in more detail because bullet train and all they have spoken about. And capital expenditure on railways also, you see that it has been projected to be 2.65 lakh crore this time, right? Electrification, you know that 99% of the complete rail network has been electrified. It's almost reached 100% electrification. And 96% of dedicated freight corridors have been commissioned. Mumbai, Ahmedabad, high-speed rail at 55% physical progress. Civil aviation UDAN scheme, as you know, again, airports, they have doubled from 74 to 164. These are all very good inputs for your mains, actually. It is connecting 93 airports, right? UDAN scheme. And passenger traffic, as you can see, it has improved from 303 to from last year to this year. Again, there is more passenger traffic, cargo volumes are increasing. So airport, as you know, they have even opened up the airport sector for multiple players, especially after the Indigo fiasco this year. You can expect some question on that. DGCA rules. What has happened? Or they might be putting a question on the regulator DGCA himself. There's a potential question on that. We'll discuss in current affairs when we come. DGCA bodies will discuss that. Ports and shipping. Now in ports and shipping also, again, you find that turnaround time has decreased. What do you mean by turnaround time? Turnaround time is the time when the ship comes and docks in the port and returns, leaves the port. So generally what used to happen is when they come and dock at the port and they have to unload the goods, there will be a lot of clearances, there will be a lot of procedures to be followed. And then again, you have to reload back and then the ship has to leave. Again, when reloading also, again, checks, clearances, everything is to be done. Now, significant reduction, you find that almost, you can say 30% of the time has reduced. It was earlier 44 hours if one ship comes and docks. Now it has moved to 30 hours. It needs more reduction, especially if you go to private ports like Mundra port, which is being managed. The turnaround time is very, very less. It's less than somewhere around 10 hours. Right? Indian ports still need to improve. Further, when you come to policy shift, we have adopted this landlord port model. What do you mean by landlord port model? See, what we are trying to do is we're not trying to privatize the ports. Whichever ports we have, we're trying to give it as a lease to some landlords. I mean, you can say to some tenants who can come, who can utilize the port, streamline it, make it more corporate, professional, and run it, thereby generating more revenue. Government is not losing ownership. It's only giving for lease. Infrastructure is there, come and use it. Right? And PPP projects also have increased. Shipbuilding activity has increased a lot. Government is giving a lot of you can say a boost to shipbuilding, because earlier we were dependent on ships from foreign countries. India, which was once upon a time a country famous for building its own ships, unique kind of ships, right? And India was one of the first countries to set sail. In your Indus Valley civilization, you find Indians going to all the other countries. Indians were one of the first countries to set sail, and today India is a country which was importing. They were not able to manufacture their own ships. Today, shipbuilding activity has got a huge boost from 2022, right? And when you come to energy transmission, I think this is where you have the best figures and data you find. India, in terms of solar energy, wind energy, it's become, in terms of solar energy, India is the second largest solar energy, I think, right now. Third global supplier. And in terms of wind energy, India is fourth. India has reached that bracket. And you find that, again, in this 40 gigawatt, totally you find that they're having 250 gigawatt of renewable energy today. Which is really astounding, because you see, once upon a time we had a document, National Action Plan on Climate Change. In that, National Solar Mission was there. It said that by 2022, India would reach 20 gigawatt of solar energy. The policy came in 2012 or something, 2010 or 2012. 2010, I think it was UPA era policy, where the plans were 20 gigawatt of solar energy by 2022. And today, we have almost gone more than 5-6 times. We have crossed 100 gigawatt, 125 gigawatt or something, we are there. So in terms of power, as I showed, even in your capex expenditure, a lot of investments is going into power and into wind also. And in fact, today, even in, I think wind energy mix, wind is contributing today 41%. Earlier, wind didn't contribute so much. Today, even wind has started contributing 41% in the total energy mix. 40% of 250 is how much? 40% of 250 is how much? If you think so much, go on CSAT. 100 approximately. 40% is 100 approximately. Right? You should think fast. 40% of 250, 25 into 4, 40, 100. Very fast. Okay. Moving forward, as I told you, so in wind energy also we are beginning to dominate, right? And even in terms of discoms, you find that this year there's a change. There you find that it has turned positive. Profit after tax. Discoms have turned profit after tax. They have turned positive, which was not the case. They were only making losses. You see, it was making 68,000 crore loss in financial year 2014. Cumulative profit after tax. All the discoms added. You take Karnataka discom, gone. That's why, because we have given free current. It is completely in losses. Government is not making payments also. God only knows how it is running. Anyway, AT&C losses also, transmission losses have also dropped from 22 to 15%, right? And that was one of our policy initiatives that we had taken. We should reduce the AT&C losses to less than 15%. Further, here also again, see, similar to AgriStack, we are also planning to create Energy Stack, right? Which will move from energy access to energy agency, whereby everyone will have a role to make it very more operational. To give you a simple idea, what they're trying to speak about is, consider where you have prepaid meters where you can buy electricity by just doing a UPI-like transaction. Immediately you can just recharge for electricity. On those lines, they're speaking about smart meters, prepaid meters, whereby you can also recharge based on who is giving you power at a lower cost. They're trying to bring in that energy ecosystem, whereby you can make energy more cost competitive, right? Else today, what is happening? Government is setting the rates, how much ever they want, they're realizing. right? If you are able to, if you create more competition, open up the market, give more players an opportunity, you can buy from the people who are giving less. And they're also trying to say, see, why they're trying to do all this is today, government is also trying to push for, you can say, this domestic solar scheme is there, no? Solar rooftop scheme. So even people are started producing electricity, and that electricity is many times in surplus. So instead of wasting that, you sell it. You also make money. That is why they are trying to create that energy ecosystem, right? Consumers and prosumers. Prosumers means producers as well as consumers. That is the word that they are using. Choice, portability, asset monetization. Regulators, they should be instant and there should be reliable data access. Again, performance, everything you can start. Basically create like a e-platform whereby all the people are there. You can buy electricity from whichever player you want who gives good rates. Based on the predictability, all the factors, you can start buying. Digital infrastructure. Now, digital infrastructure is the backbone of an inclusive economy. As you know, digital infrastructure, when you speak, it's mainly you're speaking about inclusiveness, isn't it? You're more focused on the inclusiveness. 5G rollout services available in 99% of the districts. 5G is available now, right? Data boom, as you know, consumption per subscriber rose from 0.26 GB to 25 GB, right? Everyone, every day, everyone is hooked. Capacity, data centers capacity is currently at 1.2 gigawatt, projected to reach 4 gigawatt by 2030. Even you find that a lot of data centers are being set up in India. And BharatNet progress, you can see. Gram Panchayats connected, optical fiber cable which has been laid, and high-speed broadband, right? In lakhs. So on an overall basis, you find that there is increasing digitization of Indian economy. Digitization is becoming a norm, not an exception. Every field, you can see everything is getting digitized. They're trying to connect everything, and with digital data, they're able to take better policy decisions. You can see that movement when government is trying to speak of agri stack, energy stack. All this why they're trying to do for better qualitative decision making, reduce the leakages, become data driven. Right? That's the idea that even your mains requests from you. When in your mains paper, you should be data driven. Instead of telling government is investing in energy, you need to tell how much they're investing in power. 7 lakh crores have invested in energy. It makes a difference, right? Further, if you go and say 7 lakh out of 12 lakh crores, more of an impact, right? Anyway, moving on to your space sector, you find that even in space sector, there has been a lot of improvements. You find that it has completely opened the space sector in space, where they have allowed private players to come into which 1,000 crore venture capital fund has been done. Currently, you have 56 active space assets, 20 communication, 8 navigation, 21 Earth observation satellites of the government. Recent ones, SpaceX docking, yes, right? And navigational NVS-02 was also launched. LVM-3 M6 heaviest LEO payload. I think 2 months back they launched this, right? Now our future vision, as you know, by BSS manned lunar mission 2040, and currently Gaganyaan. After Gaganyaan, Chandrayaan, they want to send a person. They want to send people to moon. Bharatiya Antariksha Space Station is creating the space station. ISS, I think it was there in 2 weeks back. It was in news that the final picture or something of ISS, they are going to decommission the International Space Station. So India is also building its own space station, right? Now, another thing that was important in your economic survey is provision of water, Har Ghar Jal, Jal Jeevan Mission. how it was 2019, as you can see how water stressed it was, and in 2025, this is the map they have given, that it has turned blue, right? How much percentage of people, as you can see, have got households with tap connections. 3.23 crores, and here it is 15.76 crores. As I told you, last 2-3 years is what you will find. Lot of things have happened. River rejuvenation also, Namami Ganga. This is still Ganga is not clean. It has not. We are waiting for it to become clean. But one thing we can say is Gangetic dolphin, which is our national aquatic animal, their population has doubled. So they are one of the biological indicators also. Their presence indicates water quality and purity. So it is improving, and it has nearly doubled from 2015 to 2026. It's currently 6,300. Right. So we are still yet to see Ganga and Yamuna being cleaned. Right. Both Yamuna also now they have started the project of cleaning. We have yet to see when they will be serious about it and get the complete river cleaned. Path to 2047, scale integration and resilience. So this is what, as you know, record public capital expenditure is going on. Integration with all the other aspects. This is one nice image that has been given, where telecom, road, railways, everything is getting integrated with corridors, right? And future ready with digital public infrastructure and green energy and space. So infrastructure on an overall, you can see, is not no longer just about concrete. It is the enabler of productivity and the primary vehicle for delivering the vision of Viksit Bharat. That's why government has been massively pumping into infrastructure, especially last 2-3 years. And you are able to see the results now. You are slowly seeing the results now. Last one, services sector. With that, we'll call it a day. Service sector, as you know, it is the growth engine. It is because of service sector only, India is able to sustain growth, GDP growth, right? And the best part of service sector is you can find that it consistently gives a growth of around 7 to 8% every year. There is not too many shocks. In the last few years, or you can say in the last 20 years, it has consistently given a growth. The principal engine of economic momentum, that's what you can call the service sector, drives more than 50% of GVA, and it is the protagonist. Protagonist means hero of the India's economic story. It is the anchor, as I told you, high growth, low volatility, and approximately it gives 10% of your GDP exports. Your exports are huge. $327 billion you have made profit this year. Evolution. Now there is one evolution that is happening in service sector. You are shifting from back office to innovation hub. As I told you, even in service sector, there is more high value growth is accelerating, especially in global capability centers and deep tech and experience economy. Now, what used to happen earlier is, if you go back to your 1990s, 2000s, India was more famous for, outsource. They used to outsource BPO work, backward processing, basically calls, right? I think if you see some 2000s, 2010, some Hollywood movies, you'll always find them when they call, it's going to an Indian agent. Earlier, see, before internet became the norm, they used to call and book things. So whenever they used to call, an Indian used to receive a call and deliver services to them. Tell, okay, these are the products available. Please give me your credit card number. I'm doing. Most of the BPO work was being run over here only. Means call center, basically. Call center, what they used to do. All that work was being run in India. These kind of works was being done, where it was low skilled English speaking work. Now we are moving towards the innovation hub. We are speaking about global capability centers, where analytics, where you're speaking about accounting, all these things are being sent to India. Global capability centers, Bangalore is the largest you can say more than 60% of global capability centers in India is in Bangalore, where you're creating clusters of, let's say, accountants, analytics, research wings. All these are happening. They are present in the same place and they are able to deliver the service. Right? They're able to deliver the service. This is where you find there is a huge evolution in terms of service sector. And future growth depends on bridging the skills gap, AI adaptation, and deregulating new frontiers like space and the blue economy. We'll come there when we come to blue economy. So yeah, resilience amidst global volatility. Post-COVID, you find that many of the countries pre-COVID average and how much deviation has happened. Post-COVID, India is one of the countries where service sector has found huge growth. Post-COVID also, right? Though there have been global headwinds, as you know, unlike cyclical industry fluctuations, services offer 7 to 8% steady annual growth. This is very, very important. How India is able to maintain. See, you found a lot of fluctuations in agriculture. In industry also, there is fluctuations. Though there is growth, little bit fluctuations are there. But in services, you find them to be very steady. So you find that services share in nominal GDP, India has been increasing, decreasing, all that is happening. But it's overall basis, it's 49.9%. It's a good trend. Now, in terms of services also, India is an export powerhouse, as you know. India's share in service exports is more than manufacturing exports. India's share in service exports is how manufacturing that you can say current account balance is being balanced. In fact, in manufacturing, you're having deficit. There is a current account deficit. Because of service exports, you're able to bridge that. Right? And you find that FDI, it's also an FDI magnet, service sectors. And you find that in energy and gas supply is where you have the most FDI coming in services. See, services attract 80% of total FDI inflows into India, not manufacturing, services. Right? India is the seventh largest service exporter. Be careful. So if they say India is the largest service exporter, don't be in happiness, you don't go and tick. Right? It is the seventh largest. It has doubled from 2% to 4.3%. Still, there's a lot of potential. And share of services in urban employment is 62%. Right? Urban economy is running basically because of service sector. So payroll additions also we have seen it has been increasing when you see for the last 3 years. Right. And also there was this very nice gender insight. Women in the same job are earning more than men in IT industry. Only in IT industry, in the same job, same position, they're earning 2.7x times than men in similar roles. Now, from as I told you, back office to global capability centers I've already explained. See, these are the major cities where you find global capability centers, and Bangalore is one of the, it is having almost 60% of the global capability centers in India. Right. Further, the AI paradigm. On AI, there is one detailed chapter. I'll take it in the next class. We need another session for economic survey. I'll take it in the next class. AI in detail we'll discuss. But with AI, you can see AI intensive sectors, we are having more exports. As I told in the last class also, India is the second ranked economy in terms of AI skilled professionals availability. First is US. After US, India is the second country with the highest AI skills available. See, India was only 3% of global data centers despite generating 20% of data in the world, right? Capacity must rise from 1.4 gigawatt to 8 gigawatt by 2030. Physical backbone, services, not the infrastructure part, services part. Services from ships, services from rail, and services from aviation. As you can see, port cargo traffic, turnaround time we already discussed. Rails, freight loading time has increased. Freight loading is to, I mean, not time. Volume of freight that was there, 2,600 million tons, 50% more cost effective than road transport, driven by coal, iron ore, and cement corridors. And aviation, as you can see, 411.8 million passengers are expected. Now, there was one very nice, you can say, article regarding tourism. So they were telling tourism in traditionally we have always focused only on bringing people to India, showing them certain places, you know, taking them to Himalayas or taking them to certain Western Ghats, either for forest areas, beaches, something like that we used to do. We have not gotten into this tourism of, you know, providing service-based tourism. Means medical tourism, we are already into that. And medical tourism's demand is rising, especially in with your neighborhood who are not having that facilities. You have a huge opportunity. For you see your neighborhood, not just the SAARC countries, you see the Asian countries also, you see African countries also, you see the Arabic countries also. You find that India and China, to be more straightforward, both are having huge medical capabilities in terms of doctors, in terms of equipments, diagnostics, everything. So medical tourism and even the costs. You find that even many of the India is known for its orthopedics, for example. Even Westerners from Europe, US, they come down to India for orthopedic surgery or orthopedic related improvements. If you take in the case of what do you say? There are other dentists also. People are willing to bear with their dental pain in US until they come to India, right? Because and when most of the people who are in US, when they come to India, they are compulsorily go and get a dental checkup done. Very problem is there, they'll fix it and they'll go, because Indian services are cheap compared to US, right? So now what the economic survey is trying to tell is, it's time we start exploring new niches. What are those new niches? Medical tourism, for example. We can start improving that. Second is blue economy, where you can start exploring this idea of yachting, taking them on cruises, cruise economy, propose adventures. Okay, adventure I'll come. Take them on a cruise. See, if you go to US, UK and all, cruise economy itself is there in tourism. They take you on a cruise, they take you to the ocean, they show some sightseeing, they get you to do some, have food, they leave you on an island, play around, and then bring them back. India has so many islands, India has so many opportunities, but it has not been tapped. Why you need to go to US or UK? You go to, even for example, Indonesia, Thailand, Bali, all these countries, they are doing that only basically. Phuket, Bali, all these places, it's famous for that. They take you on a cruise, they leave you there and come. India has not yet developed any something like that. That is what they're recommending. Developing a yacht economy, yacht-based, adventure-based, cruise-based economy. And further, adventure when you come, if you go to, for example, see, I've just put that image, in Appalachian, in Europe, in those mountains, you find that there are trails. So people, what they do in Western countries, not only in Europe, in Australia, in America, there are a lot of trails. All people will do is trek. 15 kilometers, 20 kilometers, 25 kilometers, 35 kilometers, clear trails have been created where people trek and reach the other place. And for that, they charge an amount. You don't need much maintenance also. Indian trekking, you already have seen what is happening in Indian trekking, right? People are going to see wildlife animals, but are only seeing people more over there, right? So shift from volume to value, where in India, cruise tourism, sustainable ecotourism models, India is, it is suggesting government to come out with policies on these lines, and you can expect some policies in the upcoming month, which will start encouraging this. Another sector it is telling is gaming sector. Gaming sector is growing, rapid expansion to 232 billion rupees revenue. VFX animation, everyone is demanding more and more animation. As you can see, movie industry, everything is undergoing a transformative shift, right? A lot of potential over there, and digital media also. So that is what they're telling. Live events are high multiplier activities. Again, this also you find a lot of foreign people are coming into India, conducting events. Indians also, a lot of concerts, all this are happening, right? So a new economy is happening. Recently, some another, I heard about this bhajan concerts have started happening in India, which is attracting a lot of people. Bhajan concerts means they're taking all the bhajans, singing in Gen Z style, right? So no, there is a huge demand. There's huge demand, and in fact, there is a whole new economy that is getting built up over there. Recently also they started this wedding parties. No wedding is happening. Fake wedding. No wedding is happening. Bharat parties. Sorry, not wedding. Bharat parties, where all the people are just coming thinking there is a marriage. They're acting like the Bharat coming into that party, how they come in the same way they're enjoying. So they're trying to create those where you celebrate, right? Festival time or any event time. They're trying to imitate and start, on a regular basis. Why not do that? Right? Yeah. I'm feeling sad for you guys. You have been so much away from the society that you don't know these things are happening in the society. Studying for UPSC, you're losing in touch with the society. So since we are discussing about economy, we are looking at it from an economic point of view because it's generating a lot of revenue, these events. And yes, monetizing the final frontiers, space and ocean. Space economy, we already saw that the private ecosystem is being monetized. That is one. And ocean commercialization, moving beyond fishing to deep sea technologies and earth system data products. Commercializing ocean data for climate, logistics, and resource management. This is another idea that has been floated. Ocean commercialization. India collects a lot of ocean data, as you know. After the tsunami, 2004 tsunami, India has collected a lot of ocean data. So India is looking at monetizing the data. Now, as I told you, everything is getting integrated. Just one example I've given, the servification of manufacturing. So I already explained to you how embedded software on wheels. Today, in fact, you live infotainment. In your let's say, mirrors start moving. Mirrors start showing, if someone is coming near to you, suddenly your camera gets on. Okay, this person is about to touch your vehicle. In Bangalore, it's always on, right? No, such innovations are nice, but yeah, lights automatically start changing, dimming as per the requirements and increasing their intensity. You find a lot of software is going into making products. Today, you find that you're trying to make the product smart, which your products are there. Not just car. You take your refrigerator, you take your washing machine. They're trying to, you have heard about IoT, Internet of Things. So basically, certification of manufacturing, both are getting integrated. And in fact, that's what they say. 17.7% was, you find that those manufactured products which had services, there has been more sales, increasing sales. 18% of those products were sold, right? In India's manufacturing exports. Today, you see in China, China has gone into a next moment, it's gone to the next level of manufacturing in terms of car, for example. Today, to be very truthful, it is beating German cars. If you see Chinese cars, if you see what they are doing, the kind of technology they have bought in, and the kind of demos they are giving. For example, one demo they gave, they put 10 amps. They made BMW, they made Benz, and they made Audi go on that. Even when the car was going, little bit shaking was happening. One Hawaii also has got into car manufacture. Hawaii sent its car, though it went on the humps, no movement inside the car. Right. Secondly, they are creating cars like, this has become very famous now. Very most of the cars in China are having this feature now, where To park, you go to the parking lot. You just need to live. The car will park on its own. And for it to come out, if you just raise your hand, it will come out. Right? Face identification or something, I don't know. They are using the technology where just if you raise your hand, the car will come out. You don't need to go inside and get your car out. And when you get down also, now people are becoming more and more lazy. You don't need to close your door also. It will close automatically, detecting that no person is there inside. So cars are everything is becoming smart service. See, why I'm telling this is these are the things which will make a consumer tilt, to take these cars. If you give them more features, people become more happy, right? People tend to buy if they're getting at the same cost, if they're getting such good products, they'll tend to buy that. Anyway, so that's why they say visit China once, you'll get a very clear idea. China is already 10-15 years ahead of India in terms of way of life. Way of life. The roads are dynamically shifting, barricades are dynamically shifting based on traffic. 4-lane road is there. If one side traffic is more, it will become 3-lane, and one side will become 1-lane. Barricade will shift. It will and see, even in terms of how they are doing services are being provided. For example, GPS. So your current GPS, you're dependent on Google Maps. So it only shows you, okay, there is traffic. When you see in that line, red, blue, sees. What Chinese cars GPS is doing is, it will show you the signal only. It will start showing you the signal, near to the signal, what is happening. The video gets played. Though you are very far away, the video gets played. What is exactly happening? How much is the traffic? Is there a jam or anything? All those things are being something that we should bring to Bangalore. It helps a lot in Bangalore. Right? R&D and innovation. Now, the survey speaks about adopting Singapore-based model where it is mission-linked research. So create a mission, based on that mission, you start making research. Instead of just investing in research, create a mission. For example, quantum mission, all this, what we are doing right now. If you observe, India's AI mission, we're not calling it as AI fund or something. We're calling it as a mission. India AI mission, National Quantum Mission. You're trying to tell that I'll be using quantum technology there. No, I want that technology. That is mission-linked research. Else, if you only do research, you'll start learn about quantum technologies. Now I want this product. I want a quantum computer over there. Give me that. I'm funding for that. Right? That is how Singapore's innovations have happened. Mission-linked research, centralized governance, and deep industry participation. And leveraging your FTAs, which already, as you can see, UK, EFTA, all that which we have done, secure market access, and remove friction in this. Data centers is the place where we are having a lot of challenges. US is not willing to allow India get its data sovereignty. India is not willing to share data with the US or EU. Data of India stays in India. But they also want shared data access because they can develop products for India only if they have data. Right? So there is always a fight that is going on. And the only way we can tackle this is by building more and more data centers. Right now, we are hosting still in foreign data centers. We need more and more data centers in India. Right? So in terms of service sector, you don't find much of a change, much of reforms that has been suggested. Just some new ideas and new venues. You find the crux of reforms that has been suggested is in agriculture and industry. Services, not much. Rapid reskilling for the AI era. This is one important requirement, and unlocking space drones and blue economy. Blue economy is something they have suggested, whereby you can tap the potential of the ocean. Ocean in terms of sea. When you take the ocean, not just the data, you can develop deep sea vessels for fishing, right? And you can also do for this, what do you say, deep diving, all those You can create an economy inside the ocean also, harnessing ocean energy also. Lot of opportunities are there which they are suggesting. Right. So these are the sectors of the economy. Next, we'll discuss about the social sectors and AI, and we'll wrap up the economic survey and budget also. If possible, I'll finish budget. Budget, not much is there. Not much is there. This budget was mainly, see, basically government is not willing to alter its positions much in the budget. Things are working smoothly. It's going on a planned path. They do not want to make much of changes, only increasing outlays. In this budget also, that's what you will find. You can say incremental improvements, right? And one more thing that we are observing is government is not actually waiting for the budget to announce everything. If you have observed, government is not waiting for the budget to announce everything. For example, take the case of GST. GST slabs, they shifted 28% to 18%, 18% to 5%. It happened somewhere in the mid of September or no, October, I think. Right? Just before Deepavali, that happened. So government is like, when time is coming, they're immediately going with reforms. They're not making budget as the most important event where every reform will come about. Right? Which is in a way good, but it does have problems. The problems come for the states. State finances gets messed up. When government changes such things, states would have budgeted something. State is still not adapted to this kind of working, right? A state has a long way to, all the states require more support. And all of a sudden, when you shift states, suddenly their plans go for a toss. Take the case of Manregas, for example, BB Ram, that Viramji. All of a sudden, now the burden is shifted on states in terms of raising the capital. 40% they have to fund. Where will the states go all of a sudden in the middle of a year if you announce this? These are the challenges that come.